we're going to talk a little bit about words of knowledge and how to step out. Sometimes we need a little bit of training, but you know what? Just a little bit. It's not a matter of more and more and more and more training. It's a matter of doing. And a lot of times you're going to learn by making mistakes. You're going to learn by just, having to put yourself out there and sometimes miss it. And you got to be okay with missing it. It's not about our reputation. It's about his reputation. It's all about him. So it doesn't matter. Some of the people that you highly respect have blown it and failed many times trying to step out in faith. They've tried and they've missed it. Some of the people you highly respect and you watch their YouTube videos and they write books and they teach and they do seminars have missed it. And they learned by just going for it. What was comfortable for me in church started off as a risk. When I first got born again, I was in a church that prophesied a lot. We were at Maranatha, and man, there was prophecies that came. It was normal, right? I mean, 8 people give a word was not like it's unusual, and they were on, man. When we got baptized, we had prophetic words we still listen to today. And those words were like, man, but we hold to those words. And these people would step out and prophesy. And I remember about 2 weeks in the Lord, I'm sitting there and I'm watching all this happen. And I said, I want that gift. I told the Lord that. I said, Lord, I want that gift. Because I was too ignorant to know what I was asking for. I didn't realize the fear of the Lord that comes with prophesying. I just saw it and thought it was cool. I want that. And I remember I was learning about faith at a very early time. A lot of it was because of the tapes at that time, cassette tapes that Ron was giving me, and I was feeding on it. And so if the pastor said something like, we're going to pray for somebody's healing, if you here have faith to believe they're going to be healed, you can come up there and pray. Man, I'd be one of the first people up there. I was brand new in the Lord, but I had faith to believe they'd be healed. And then I remember real shortly after that, I walked up front to give a word. I'm barely in the kingdom. And the way it worked over there is they had a microphone, and if you came up and you had a word and you walked to the front because you had a prophecy, they would hand you the mic. And I walked up front, and the pastor went, "What you got?" And he was like, I'm not that sanctified yet. There's no telling what could come out. When you try to be enthused. And I told him, I still remember today. That was 28 years ago. I can tell you what I prophesied 28 years ago. I walked up there and I said, do not take lightly the price that the Lord paid for your salvation. Do not take lightly the cost. Man, I couldn't sing a hymn without bawling. I didn't just sing something. I meant it when I sang it, And I could sing Amazing Grace as it. I'm done. If I could sing anything about him and just really talk about the Lord, I was wrecked. And he was like, that's the Lord. And he let me give that word, But then I went to a church. They would. At first, it was one of these where you go up for the word, and they'd give you the mic and hold it. They wouldn't let go of it, but they'd put it to you, And that was a risk. And it took years before I would walk up front and they would just give me the mic and walk away. It took building trust that I'm not just going to say anything, but I had to build a track record. One of the things that God tested me on was I walked up front. I'll never forget this. I walked up front and, it's usually during worship. Worship's kind of ending, and you kind of get that pocket where you're going to go there and you walk up front, and I didn't like to get on the platform. I still didn't. I'm not a fan of giving a word from up there. I'd rather I could give it from down here and not look at you. Because I'm not trying to be me talking to you. And so I didn't like to get on a platform. So I would stand and face this way, and they would just put the mic in front of me and I wouldn't even touch it. And when it would happen, usually my palms would get really sweaty. I mean, bad. I'm worshiping. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would get so nervous. I knew he was trying to move on me, and I was so nervous. And I'd try to rehearse what I was going to say. And then half the time he would give me a word on a rope. A word on a rope is, here's one word. And when you say that, I'll give you the second word. Those are the worst. It's like he gives you some little thing to prime the pump, and you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth next. That's not fun. And I mean, literally, there's a fear and trembling. And if there's not, you're not the one giving the word. You're not the one supposed to be giving the word. Because there should be some fear and trembling when you know he's going to say something here, and this is from God, not from me. There's a responsibility to it. I was taught never say, thus saith the Lord. I don't agree with that. I'm just saying I was taught that. I heard it somewhere. They taught that. Don't say, thus saith the Lord. Say, I'm feeling, I have an impression, I'm sensing. And I tried that. And I did it that way. And I went and sat down. And the Lord goes, what was that? It's exactly what he said. What was that? I heard that guy. Did I tell you to say that? He said, you say what I say and do what I do. That's what I want you to do. If I say it this way, then you say it that way. Yes, sir. So, you obey God. And I went up front to give a word. And I mean, I'm trusted in this church. Okay? And I got up front, and I'm standing here, and the pastor jumped up, grabbed the microphone, and said, you go ahead and hold that. And he just kind of, everybody have a seat, and he starts going into his message. And I'm standing here, and everybody's seated, and I get the walk of shame. It's like, try to be cool, and go back and sit in your seat. And everything's going on inside of me. That wasn't God. He knew you weren't hearing from God. So he had to shut that down. I mean, the enemy's just pouncing on me, And I sit down and the pastor starts preaching. He just goes right into his message, and he starts quoting every scripture that I was about to prophesy. He's saying, we're just like word for word. I'm going, whoa. Thinking, okay, God, I know I heard you. Next week, Lord says, go up. I went up front, stood right here, because he never does that, jump up and grab the mic thing. Guess what he did? Grabbed the mic, said, hold that. Week number 2. Walk of shame. 3rd week. Went up front. Exact same things happened. He's preaching the same scriptures again. I go up front, hold that. 3 times in a row. And I went back and I said, God, what in the world is that? Why am I looking? What in the world why are you holding 2 microphones? This was show and tell, and I started speaking into it. So I said, God, who's missing it? Am I missing it, or is he missing it? And the Lord said, who said anybody's missing it? He said, if I tell you to get up 100 times and he sits you down 100 times, will you get up 101? And we all say yes. Oh, yes, amen, that's right. Till you're walking back. And you know what you're saying when you're walking back? I ain't getting up again. I ain't doing that one more time. I'm not getting humiliated in front of this church. That's what you're saying. If you're not saying, I'm not coming back. I'm not even coming back to this place because I heard God. He confirmed I heard God, but he's too stubborn to let me get the microphone. We got done, and someone that I knew in the church that also prophesied called me at home. And he said, Sidney, man, I know the Lord uses you. I mean, you're always on. What did the Lord show you? I said, I can't tell you. And he said, what? I said, I can't tell you. Why? I said, because Pastor told me to hold it. And God was testing me. And I didn't say one bad thing about the pastor because the pastor wasn't wrong. What was happening was I was being tested. And I was going to be tested if I was going to be faithful with the responsibility. So I got comfortable doing prophecies. I got prophesy a little more and then get trusted in the church. Then I got where I go. When I got moved to another church, instantly I had favor. Instantly. I mean, I remember the pastor come up to me, right off the bat, said, I just want you to know that you have a green light here if God gives you anything. And they would just get me they'd say, no, get up here. They'd give me on the platform and then hand me the microphone. And I wasn't used to that. I didn't even like being up there to prophesy. And then the next week, another pastor walks up and says, I just want you to know you have a green light if you get anything from the Lord. And after they said that, I could go up front and it was like someone turned on a fountain and I was getting downloads. I mean, I would hear for that body. It wasn't always like that. I had gone to that church once before trying to come in there and the Lord would give me a prophecy and I would give it and I could feel the leadership receive it. But when I gave the word, it was like throwing a rubber ball and it bounced back and hit me in the face. The people weren't receiving it at all. And I literally would walk out into the foyer and I would cry after I prophesied. It hurt. It literally hurt. And I told my wife, we can't go in here anymore. We can't go here anymore. We can't. It hurts too bad. It hurts too bad. I can't go there. Because there was no reception of the word. And then after that began to be more consistent where God used in that way where you lose some of the being nervous, then he does something I didn't think he would do. He changed what he wanted me to believe for. I could prophesy in front of a church. But now he wanted me to use words of knowledge. Now, you may think they're really, same thing. No, it's not. It's not even a little bit the same thing. You see, prophecies, sometimes it gets kind of easy. Thus saith the Lord to all of y'all. This is for someone here. No one's going to raise their hand. And I just give it and then go sit down. But when you say somebody here, your right ankle is hurt and you're dealing with, now that's going to be tested. You get a word of knowledge that's specific for somebody. Now it's good, especially if you're in a place where it's smaller congregations, then you're really going to be tested. And it's a kind of a proving ground that happens. And God would stretch me, and I didn't want that. I'm like, this is my gift. This is how I hear God. I'm staying in my zone here. Stay in your lane, like people used to say. Stay in your lane. My wife and I hate that term, but I say it anyway. And so I would just, well, God doesn't have a lane. There's no stripes at all. It's kind of like driving in Argentina. If you ever go to Argentina, you will find out the stripes are suggestions. They are not for you to, people don't stay in them. And you know what? When they come out of them and just kind of get halfway in, people don't even get mad. They're just kind of like, They don't understand how we get so mad. They move over, they're halfway in the middle. The other guy behind them just slows down like, yeah. And people just kind of cut it, I'll make a left turn from the fifth lane to the right, yeah, let's just go this way. And they just, he's going to turn from way up. Okay. And it's not a big deal. It's the weirdest thing. Cars come up to lights and you're just kind of like, how do y'all, there's 4 lanes and there's 6 cars wide here. How are we 6 cars wide in 4 lanes? Oh, there went a motorcycle to the middle of us in the middle of that. It's like, okay, well, and it's everybody, they understand. I don't understand, but they understand each other. That's how God is. God he has suggestions, but man, we're going to kind of, this is kind of your lane for a little while, and then I might just change the stripe. So God started trying to push me to words of knowledge. I didn't want it. We started getting a little training about how to use words of knowledge. Didn't matter, right? That's your gift. That's not my gift. So I was in a service. I remember the first one. I went to somebody else that gets words of knowledge. I said, man, I got something. I don't understand this. He goes, that's a word of knowledge. You got to give it. I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, go give it. Go give it. So I go up there, and this is what I got. Okay, I see a fist like this. That's all I see. I see a fist like this. And I hear carpal tunnel, but it's not carpal tunnel. That's what I heard. Carpal tunnel, but it's not carpal tunnel. Well, that's revelation. Thanks. Give that word. So I went up and said, I got a word of knowledge. I see a fist like this, and the word is carpal tunnel, but it's not carpal tunnel. Oh, that's me. This guy gets up and comes up front. I'm thinking, are you serious? So I go down and pray for him. Well, he doesn't tell me what's going on. I just pray for him. And, I didn't do okay, now test it. Do you see? I just pray. Amen. And I'm getting away because he might not get healed. Man of faith and power is telling you, this is new to me. Well, I didn't find out till a couple of weeks later when I saw him again. I'm like, hey, man, so how's oh, dude, I'm 100%, man. I'm completely healed. Well, what was that? What did that mean? He said, well, I work at a bakery and I do pastries. And he said, I squeezed the pastry thing like this. And he says, the pain in my wrist is excruciating. I have this little lady that works for me. And we have to move these, I think he said like bricks or something for an oven that they use, some special oven. He said, I have to have her lift them for me. I can't. And this guy's fit looking, He said, she has to pick them up because I can't hold them. And he said, I went to a doctor and the doctor said, well, it's kind of like carpal tunnel, but it's not carpal tunnel. And he said, I can probably help you, but it's going to cost the X, Y. And he gave him this big number and he went, I can't do that. He said, well, God, it's up to you. Then you're going to have to heal me because I don't have that kind of money. And he went to church. And then I got up there and said, okay, there's somebody like this, carpal. And he was like, that's me. And God instantly healed him. That's cool, but it's risk. Now, let me ask you this. If I don't do that, does he still get healed? Who says yes? Raise your hand. There's a couple yeses. Who says no? Raise your hand. Who says I don't know? I don't know. I don't know. But I know that I should obey. I'm not risking it. If you don't witness to somebody, the one you led to the Lord, will they get saved? I don't know. So I got to go for it. Not go, oh, well, God, do it. Let somebody else do it. I can tell you this, somebody I highly respect and went to church with for a very long time, who was my home fellowship leader and a mighty woman of God, told me that she was in church on Sunday, second service, finished church, and saw this young lady. And the Lord said, go over and give her a hug. And like all of us, she got somebody else stopped her and she got kind of busy and she saw her and she and everybody, and the girl left. So she's like, well, I'll tell her next week. The girl committed suicide that week. That's a true story. She didn't come back next Sunday. You don't know how important your obedience is. You don't know. I'm not trying to be heavy, but I want to be sober. We got to obey. We got to obey. Because God may put something on you and you think, oh, there is no, oh, it's just obedience or not. Risk. I think that's the Lord, then go for it. What if it's not the Lord? Then he honors the fact you took a risk. He honors your heart to obey. He honors that. If the Lord asks you to give an offering and you have $1 and you know it's not going to help because this is for a big need, do you think he honors the $1 you put in there? Absolutely. Look at the widow. Widow's mite, she gave all she had. He honored that. He does the same with your obedience to gifts of the Spirit. When you think, I don't have any, I'm not really gifted, anointed, called. He honors your widow's mite. It's all you got. And so even if you make the mistake, he's like, man, you obeyed. You jumped out there. He'll honor it. this past weekend, I was at another church, went there for their service on Sunday, and I'm not speaking. I'm just there, just support kind of thing. I'm just there. And they have a guest speaker. And they finish worship, and I get a word of knowledge. I don't know what happened during the service, but this guy, something happened because I couldn't quit dancing. And I don't mean dance. I'm talking about by Wednesday of this week, I couldn't walk hardly first 3 days of the week. Ask her. She's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I can't move my calves. I work out all the time, but I don't dance like that. I was drenched. I was soaked. I don't know what happened. Spirit of God just boom. And all these young folks, get out of the way because you boys can't dance. I was going. Right? Sometimes you just got to show the young people, where's your righteous, a little bit of kick in your step that just drives you. I'm telling you, it wasn't a showing off thing because I can't show off with it, but I'm just telling you, I couldn't stop. And so worship ends, I'm sitting down, and I started walking around the back, and all of a sudden, there's this intense pain in the front part of my ankle, right toward the top of my foot. And I knew it wasn't mine because I just been doing all this, and I've been talking about no pain, And all of a sudden I went, wow. Sometimes you will get a word of knowledge because you will get a pain in your body that's not yours. So when you go, especially when you go to church or you go to a gathering, know what you walk in with. Seriously, you walk in, it's like, I'm fine. All of a sudden, man, I got this pain in my elbow. All of a sudden, it's not you. It's not yours. It's for someone. If you get used to practicing that, then it'll happen when you're in the grocery store. You'll walk past somebody and be like, excuse me, do you have a pain in your elbow right about... You can be specific. They'll go, how did you know that? I just know. It's like, well, I went up there to give this. I said, I have a word. And pastor thought I had a word prophecy. And I'm like, no, I have a word of knowledge. Well, they stopped. Pastor Sidney's got a word. Y'all sit down. I'm like, oh my gosh, And it's a very small congregation. So here we go. Somebody here, you have pain in your right ankle, right about here. And I'm pointing at the top of my foot area and anybody? And nobody. Anybody? Nope. Don't come up to me after service and say, that was me. Nope. Anybody? Nobody. Okay. All right, I'm done. And I went and sat down. Your reputation and your ego wants to go, does anybody know someone who has an ankle problem? Anyone you're related to, or anyone that you knew of in the last 5 years that had? But I just sat down. I just sat down. And the message was good. Brother preached a message, good message, got through. We went back into worship. We go back into worship, man, presence of God's coming. I went and stood in the back, and I'm worshiping. This big old dude walks up and goes, hey, man. He's like, you said right ankle. It's not really my right ankle. It's my right foot. It's right here. And I'm like, okay, all right. He says, but I was on a drill rig accident. Foot got shattered. And he said, all these bones have got broke. My toes healed, all turned. And he said, I'm in pain every day. My right foot hurts every day. Has for years. And I'm like, okay, well, let me pray for you real quick. So I knelt down and I thought, the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the way. So I'm not going to do this 30-minute prayer. I just simply said, Holy Spirit, come. Lord, I ask you right now to bring complete healing to this foot in the name of Jesus. And I felt something. Sometimes you feel something, sometimes you don't. But I was kind of like, ooh. Kind of felt like something shifted in his foot. I was like, ooh. He's wearing dress shoes like these. And I was like, whoa. So I didn't look at him. I just kept praying. I stood up and he goes, dude, something shifted in my foot. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't just me. So he goes, I'm going to the bathroom. I want to take my shoes and my socks off. So he took off to take his shoes and socks off. So I just went back to worship. So anyway, he comes back. This was Sunday. He comes back. He's like, He's like, dude, he says, my toes are not straight. He said, but they have straightened and all the pain's gone in my foot. He's like, I've had pain in my foot, and he was completely healed. I'm like, come on, Jesus. So then he runs over, he sits down next to his wife, takes his shoe and sock back off, and he's telling his wife, look at my toes, and she's touching his feet. And I'm like, come on. So then he got up there after the service is over and everybody's leaving. He's like, wait, I want to testify. And he gets up there and gives a testimony of how God healed his foot. But you know how it started? Anybody? No? Okay. And you're thinking, you know what? But I knew I was on. You know why I knew I was on? Because as soon as I said the word of knowledge, pain left my foot. As soon as I gave it, I said, you got pain right here? Who are you? And it left. I'm like, I did my part. I'm like, I've seen people, and some of you are in this room. You've had pain for weeks until you gave a word of knowledge. And then you realize, doggone it, that was a word of knowledge. I've held this thing for weeks for nothing. Sometimes it'll happen that way because I'm just trying to help us before I go right into my message here. And that is about, we have to learn how to recognize when God's speaking to us, and we got to take a risk. Okay. If he's pushing you, if he's highlighting somebody, then we have to start pressing in to discern why he's highlighting them. Like if I can't keep, I just keep noticing, this brother, man, and I look over here, I just keep getting drawn back to that brother there. Then I start kind of asking internally, God, is there something you want to say to them? Do they need healing? And I'm waiting for something. And if I don't get anything, then I just walk up to them and say, hey, can I pray for you? Because I don't know what this is about. So I'm going to pray for you. And as I pray for you, it'll prime the pump. And sometimes things will just come out while you're praying. You thought it was going to be a prayer, it ended up being a prophecy. Okay? I'm just trying to help you because you're going to do it out there. You're going to do it like real soon because next week you're going to be talking about it. Next week, testimonies. Hear me? Next week, testimonies are for starting fires, prophecy, healing, leading someone to the Lord. And next week, first 5 up, and that's it. First 5 up, give a testimony. So don't go, I'm just going to be last. Well, you might not get to go at all. First 5 up. Okay? And the rest of you get to hold it for the next week. Well, we're going to start taking some risk, starting some fires. All right? And the rest of you get to hold it for the next week. Well, we're going to start taking some risk, starting some fires. All right? It's just priming the pump. We're going to give some more testimonies. Kathy's got an awesome one about word of knowledge. Oh, this is kind of cool. Let me share this real quick. Can I talk about your word of knowledge, or you want to talk about how it happened real quick? I can? Man, this was neat. Kathy was reading this book. She's told y'all, some of y'all this before. The book is Ultimate Treasure Hunt by Kevin Dedman. This was new to us. She was reading the book. She's in our house years ago. And as she's reading the book, she gets a name, Candace. Just Candace. Yeah, so she's just making coffee now, but that name comes to her. And then when did it come to you about the headache? Yeah, she woke her up from sleep with this pain in the back of her head. And she knew it had to do with Candace. Isn't that wild? God's putting this together. This is all new. We're just kind of like, what's this, God? How are you doing this? Whoa. Then she goes to a resale shop with our daughter. She's walking around the resale shop. Holy Spirit drops in her that word's for someone here. Little bitty resale shop. So she's like, okay. So she goes and asks the worker, excuse me, is there a Candace here? And the worker goes, no, she's not here today. Yeah, she's not here today. So she has to come back like Wednesday or something. So she goes back and she sees someone, I think with a name tag or something. And the lady walks in the back. She has to wait for her. She finally comes back out and she's like, excuse me, you're going to think this is weird. But and she starts telling her, the Lord told me. And the girl's kind of giving her the weird, like you're a weirdo kind of look. And then she says, and, do you know someone or, they have pain in the back of the head? They don't know what it is, real severe right here. And the girl kind of freaked. Like, that's my boyfriend. He's got severe pain. They don't know what it is. And she brings him to church where he gets prayer. Yeah. I mean, they're not even believers, man. And her boyfriend doesn't want to come. And she makes him. She tells him, you got to be a straight heathen to not come after God does that. That's what she told him. You better go to church with me. And so he went to church. My freakiest ones. You want to hear it real quick? A buddy of mine is ministering in Africa. And so he's telling us, hey, man, if you get a word of knowledge, just text it to me. So he's going to use words of knowledge, He's in Africa. He's actually in the Congo, one of the real safe places, right? And so I get a word of knowledge. This is what I got. Disfigured, but it's not an accident. That's what I text him. Disfigured, but it's not an accident. That's all I got. So anyway, I didn't hear anything back from that. And then a few weeks after that, he's like, yeah, I like that word you gave me. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, that was so powerful. And I go, dude, you didn't tell me. Did anything happen with that? He goes, I didn't tell you. No. He said, well, I'm in this village, right? And he said, all these teenagers have like Uzis, like automatic weapons. I mean, he says the death toll there is ridiculous. They get in a fight, they shoot each other. No respect for life. And he said, all these young men are sitting there strapped and they're listening to me preach. And you give me that message. And he said, I was too scared to give it. This is a person who knows no fear. No fear. And he's like, I wasn't given that word. He said, so I waited till the end because they fly you out at the end of your message and they get you out of that village before dark to get you to where your hotel's going to be so you can be somewhat safe. So he said, it's getting toward dark and they're saying, we got to go. And he says, okay, this is the word of knowledge I got. Disfigured, but it's not an accident. God wants to heal you. And he leaves. He didn't pray for anybody. He left. And I said, what was that about? He said, Sidney, I'm looking at these people. He said, in that village, they take a knife when you're like a teenager, like 13 to 15, and they slice them over the head 7 times, and they rub this stuff in it and scar it. And all these young men with guns are looking at me, and they're all disfigured, but it's not an accident. And he said, so we get to the other village, and after our plane lands, the guy that's guiding him gets a call and says, dude, all these young men, the scars are disappearing off their foreheads. The scars are disappearing off their foreheads. I'm like, come on, Jesus. You forgot to tell me that one. Like, really, like that one, no big deal. Come on. He's a big God. Okay.